Trip trollolol, travel troll.
I am in Auckland, New Zealand by the Queen's Wharf. It is an amazingly sunny day that I am now using to say a few things about New Zealand in general. I've spent the last 4 weeks traveling around New Zealand and I've seen only the North Island so far. I plan to go to the South Island separately next week, and that will be a separate video. Just simply because the South Island is so drastically different from the North one. The most memorable things about New Zealand or the North Island have so far been the overwhelming amount of Asian immigrants. With them come a lot of Asian food courts that are everywhere, especially in Auckland. In other cities, less so, but Auckland itself has a lot of Asian restaurants. Malaysian, Thai, Vietnamese, Indian, and so on. A lot of different restaurants and different cuisines. The only food that is very specific to New Zealand that I have found so far is pies. They have pies in every little shop and every gas station and every bakery. And they fill them with steak. The country itself, New Zealand, is very high standard country, very Western in terms of culture and pricing. So the prices for food and lodging and so on are quite comparable to Western Europe and US. One of the best things about New Zealand is also their connectedness to nature and nature preservation and culture preservation. Especially over the last 10 to 15 years, they have done great improvements on how they want to preserve their nature and indigenous species that don't live anywhere else, and the whole Maori culture that were the original inhabitants from New Zealand. They are so committed to preserving the Maori culture that children learn Maori language in schools. All cities and roads are trying to keep their own original Maori names. My favorite address so far was Te Rangi Tautehanga in Turungi. And yes, I practiced saying that. And with all that preservation effort, it is quite common to see nature preservation parks where the local wildlife can live without predators and without diseases that are slowly creeping in from other continents on the mainland of New Zealand. For example, there is an island right in front of where I sit right now that you cannot see because of this building. There is a nature preservation park where the local wildlife, birds and other animals can live without being affected by the disease that is now spreading through the forests and wildlife. Another interesting thing about New Zealand is that this is winter. It is plus 16 degrees, the sun is shining, I am getting slowly a sunburn from it, and this is supposed to be the coldest month of the year. The great thing about New Zealand is that it's so nice to live here. The problem is that it's so far away from everywhere else that it's really hard to feel connected to your friends or family who live on any other continent. Even Australia, that is still considered close, is 3,000 kilometers away. A couple of touristic advices for anyone coming to New Zealand. Definitely come for a longer period of time, because coming here is just so expensive and it takes such an immense amount of time that it's a waste to stay for less than a couple of weeks. So everyone comes here with a working holiday visa for 1 year or just a touristic visa for up to 3 months. So most people stay a month or longer. The best way to experience New Zealand is to have a car and just drive around wherever you want to go, stay in a couple of hostels, maybe couch surfing or something else. But the point is to have a vehicle that you can use to drive around. And this is a mistake that most people from Europe make. They book a car or a vehicle or a camper van from Europe so that they rent it here in New Zealand, and then they end up paying about three and a half thousand New Zealand dollars, which is about 2.2 thousand euros. The problem is that you really don't have to do that, because for that amount of money you can buy a car, a used one, approximately of the same quality as the one that you would rent, only here you own it. You use it for whatever you want, travel around, unlimited, and by the end of it you just sell it to the next person who comes along. Because there is so many people doing this that traffic with cars and reselling used cars is so common, and you can do it so quickly and cheaply that it really doesn't make any sense to rent one. So everyone that I've met so far that has rented a car has told me that it was the only big mistake that they have done about the whole journey. They have rented a car up front instead of buying one when they arrived here. Now there's a couple of trucks coming in, so I will keep this short and jump to some clips and videos that I have recorded all over the place in New Zealand, with a map reference of here is Auckland, here is Coromandel, here is Rotorua, here is Turungi, this is the Tongariro Pass or Mordor, and here is Wellington, and at the end of my trip there is Avanui and the 90-mile beach, which is actually only 55 miles long, or 90 kilometers around 90 miles. Auckland is by far the biggest city in New Zealand. It is so crazily wide that it takes you more than an hour from the city center to get to any of its sides. A lot of Kiwis don't like Auckland because it's mostly populated by Asians by now, and because it is growing crazily. It is such a large place, it takes forever to get from one place to the other, and it hasn't really been planned properly, so even car traffic takes forever. But if you don't have a car, it will take you most of the day to get to anywhere from central Auckland even. The two main highlights for me in Auckland were the Auckland Zoo and the Sky Tower. The Sky Tower is an attraction that costs quite a lot of money, $28 I believe, for something that you are done in 15-20 minutes. The Auckland Zoo, however, is a full day of entertainment and experience. It has specific shows where the zookeepers tell you about the specific animals almost every hour or half hour to keep you busy most of the day. So really, for the Auckland Zoo, come during a nice day, come early, and you will have a full day packed. Amongst other interesting things in Auckland, I found the most crazy one being how many people are into Pokemon Go. You can see people on any public place crowding playing Pokemon. Any beach that is popular has several Pokestops and a Pokemon gym on it, and there is even at midnight 100 people on each beach, even in the winter. During summer, I imagine it's crazy. My next destination was Coromandel, where I have stayed 5 days. It is mostly a nature reservoir. Not many people live there. There is not much to do. The cities are tiny, if there are even cities. I think you call them villages or towns. The only thing to do there is to have a vehicle of some sorts and travel around and see what's worth seeing. I'm very sad I didn't get to see the hot water beach, which is nearby, because I lacked a car and it is 40 kilometers away. In the center of the North Island, The most interesting places are Rotorua, Waitomo, and Taupo and Turungi. Rotorua is very famous for its smelly hot springs, the smelly lake of Rotorua that is poisonous and filled with sulfur. It makes you gag just being nearby it. Waitomo is very famous for black water rafting. It is legendary and people come from other continents to go rafting there. It is also very famous for the glowworm caves, of which exist about 40 or 50 of them. Taupo is just a small city, but it is very well positioned for a few of very famous hikes. Turungi is a small village in the direction of those hikes, very nearby of the Tongariro Pass and National Park, which is between two volcanoes. It is also the location where Mordor was filmed for The Lord of the Rings. Wellington is by people from Wellington very gladly called the smallest, most fun capital of the world. I got to see some pretty exciting life happening in Wellington. It is not as big as Auckland by far, but it is the second largest city of New Zealand, and it is very lively. It is a place where it's amazing to live, and most people there love it. Most people who move from Wellington to any other place in New Zealand just talk about going back to Wellington, because it is a very nice to live in city, and its size means that you can go by foot anywhere you want. On the north of the island, there is not many bigger places, so all the little towns are more villages than towns. It's a couple of houses grouped together that maybe have a shop or not. In the north, the best things to see are the beaches. As whole of New Zealand, on the west coast, the beaches are very windy and mostly intended for surfing and wind kiting, while the east side has the benefit of lesser winds and no waves, meaning east coast beaches are intended for swimming and sunbathing and similar activities. There is lots more about New Zealand that I cannot get into because of the sheer length of this video. But if you think there is anything very important that I missed out on, feel free to add it in the comments below. That I will make this video soon enough and not wait another month for the next one.